Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Future Redeemed is everything I feared Xenoblade Chronicles 3 proper would be when it was announced. I feared it would be an absolute smorgasbord of fan service that wouldn't stand on its own as an actual game. As it turned out, my worries about 3 were completely unfounded, and it was a fantastic standalone experience that, while it paid plenty tribute to what came before it, more than managed to hold its own compared to its predecessors. But more relevant to today's video, what making Xenoblade 3 standalone did was allow for all that fan service, all the juicy lore reveals, and franchise-long plot conclusions warranted for a series-ending finale to be stored up and saved for later. And later is now. Going into Future Redeemed, we all knew it would be more than just a prequel to Xenoblade 3, but I think we also knew it would be more than just the end of Xenoblade Chronicles as we knew it. It's the end of the entire Xeno franchise up to this point, the first time series creator and shepherd Tetsuya Takahashi has been allowed to finish a series, to finish the story he tried to tell so many years ago. If you're watching this video, I'm going to assume you've at least played the Xenoblade Chronicles games, as I have, so I'm not going to bother giving a summary or recap of Future Connected. If you've somehow found this video and haven't played the Xenoblade trilogy, plus their expansions, plus X, consider this a recommendation to do so. Go ahead, this video will still be here in 400 hours. Perhaps fittingly for a conclusion, Future Redeemed deals with what I would now retroactively call the main themes of the Xenoblade series: humanity's relationship with time, humanity's relationship with itself, or the world, and how the two intersect and inform each other in order to create the human condition. If I had to try and summarize Xenoblade's main take on all this, it would be: humanity is unfortunately conflict-prone. Be it because of ambition, righteousness, selfishness, hatred, fear, grief, revenge, good intentions, bad intentions. People will fight people, and in doing so endanger the very world we live in. That fight, and the resulting fight to protect the world, is one that is never-ending, but it is one that must be fought if we're ever to have a chance at a better world, where people don't have to fight, where they're free to decide what they want for themselves, regardless of any higher power telling them what they want or what their purpose is supposed to be, where life can simply be appreciated for what it is. A very big struggle, to put it lightly, and one that is obviously very, very easy to lose motivation for. After all, if it were easy, there wouldn't be any struggle at all. People, understandably crushed by the sheer weight of everything, the despair of simply trying to exist, often turn to drastic solutions they hope will be the one cure, that magic bullet that will make the world less of a terrifying hellhole. Perhaps they're simply after closure due to their own personal experience with pain and believe that revenge will be their key to it, through the destruction of what they blame for their suffering, as well as everything attached to it. Perhaps they believe that if they wipe out one particular ailment, stop this one threatening contagion, it will all be fine. Maybe if they could just stop everything, if the world itself would stop being so much for just a single moment, maybe then they would finally know peace. Or maybe peace is asking too much from a world like this. Maybe there is no hope, no cure for the unending despair that is being human. Maybe it would be better if they didn't exist, if the world didn't. Maybe it should all just die. If Niall had been born in Allrest, I don't know if she would have joined Torna, and I highly doubt she would have been fond of someone as openly malicious as a Malthus, but I can see her sympathizing with them, especially the former. She is someone who sees the abject cruelty of the world and just can't reconcile that with the belief that people should be saved, not when they're capable of such injustice. However, though I compared her to a Malthus and Torna, Niall's nihilism Nihilism. Niall's nihilism differs from theirs in a way that reflects the unique world and themes of Xenoblade Chronicles 3. A game where, let's not forget, the goal of the protagonists is literally to destroy the world. So why is it okay when they want to do it, but not Niall? I think Niall and Ouroboros, both those in the main game and Future Redeemed, represent two similar yet different reactions to systemic, seemingly inviolable injustice. Both see the fundamental issues baked into the system of Aionios, but whereas Ouroboros seek to make something by destroying that system and allowing something new to replace it, Nihil doesn't. She views the people within that system, in this case the Kavessian Agnian soldiers, not as being victims and symptoms of a greater sickness, Mobius, but problems in and of themselves. They aren't prisoners to be freed, they're enemies to either be killed or, at best, ignored. This is in contrast to Ouroboros, who see even the worst among us as fellow sufferers who, while still having committed unjustifiable crimes, never would have done so were they not funneled into that situation by the system they were forced to take part in and those who rule at its peak.
None of us ever fought because we wanted to. It's just how it worked. How people worked. And the world.
So, world is supervillain pon.
Huh?
Since it make everyone do nasty things. World is bad guy.
Like, if Consul D or even Consul N was the main antagonist of Xenoblade 3, and the entire game everyone was working to defeat them, they'd accomplish nothing. Zed, the embodiment of systemic evil, would just replace them with someone else and the whole thing would keep trucking along like nothing ever happened, blindly marching towards annihilation. That's not to say individual people shouldn't be held responsible for their actions, it's just looking at a bigger picture. Something Nihil can't do, too focused on the horrors in front of her to see what's actually causing them. And this isn't me blaming her, it just sucks. It's precisely this mentality that makes her vulnerable to the manipulations of Alpha, a being that, despite its general lack of any real emotion or personality, metaphorically I take as a personification of that general hatred and disdain for the world, but without any real desire to change it. Alpha's goal is to take the new life born in and unique to Aionios, that being the people from the city, to a new world, leaving everyone from Keves, Agnes, and Mobius to face oblivion. The vast majority of those people are ignorant, trapped at the bottom of a system they cannot escape. All they can do is try their best to survive, clinging with desperation to their meager 10 years of life, which, yes, can lead people to doing horrible things in the name of survival, but they never would have been forced in a position to do so were it not for the forces that put them there, and killing them does nothing to stop said forces. Just like the world he came from fell to ruin, Alpha's world will fall all the same unless something fundamental changes. In my thematic analysis of Xenoblade Chronicles 3 last year, which I would absolutely recommend you watch, it's probably one of my favourite videos out of the ones I've done, I drew comparisons between the city and the developed world, where I would say this attitude isn't terribly unusual. There is an understanding in most developed countries that the world is pretty terrible, but because there are more people with more privilege shielding them from the worst of it, they don't feel that much pressure to actually fix it. They'll whine and complain and maybe try and improve their own lives, but not really do anything for the world at large, while looking down on people in developing countries for allowing themselves to fall victim to dictatorships and war. I know this because I have seen it. I've seen friends and family express sentiments like this, and if I'm being honest, I myself have felt similar feelings in the past, that the world is just shit and what can you do? At worst, these feelings can manifest as ideas that injustice is just the natural state of the world, that it's just meant to be unfair, and that it might be better if the whole thing were to just disappear.
Hating people, hating yourself. Where does it end? What do you do when you hate the whole world?
You mean...
Destroy it. That's all that's left.
Eventually, you come to the conclusion that the world may well be better off without your presence. The only resolution, then, is to erase the self. The end point of it is suicide.
As such, the only cure for despair is total oblivion. That is the face of the world.
With that in mind, I think it's interesting that although the city and its military affiliates, the Liberators and the Lost Numbers, have a monopoly on Ouroboros power, the ones who actually defeat Zed and bring an end to Ionios are Kevesi and Agnian soldiers. It's those within the cycle, not outside it, that are able to break it. Even if they did have and needed valuable help from the city, from this more developed society, it was ultimately their efforts that brought about Mobius's defeat. Just some food for thought, I noticed. All of this is not to say that hatred doesn't have its place, that the passion for destruction is also a creative passion and all that. It is a very valid, healthy, and useful reaction. After all, if we didn't dislike the status quo, there would be no motivation to improve it. In fact, I'd argue Xenoblade Chronicles 3 in particular is specifically trying to get you angry, to get you to look around you and go, this is bullshit, I'm not going to accept this. What defines this more productive form of indignation, however, is its pairing with a trusted vision of an achievable, better tomorrow, an optimism and faith that people will keep fighting for a better world if they are given the chance. And to do so isn't to surrender to injustice or compromise with it, or to suggest that one's own indignation at the world is less passionate or genuine. It is merely a simple acknowledgement that if you truly wish to fix the world and make it a better place, you need to feel more than just hatred. This coincides with another theme of the series that Future Redeemed hammers home, and that is not only having a willingness to try and change the world yourself, but a willingness to accept that you yourself might not accomplish much. And if so, entrust your efforts and dreams to those that follow. Recognizing that evil and injustice are rooted in more than just one bad guy means also accepting that you yourself are unlikely to achieve lasting change. Do what you can to make the world a better place for those that follow, trusting in them to finish the job. This theme was present to a degree in the original Xenoblade, but it gets a hefty spotlight in Xenoblade 2 and its expansion, Torn of the Golden Country, with Adam, Laura, Jin and their party playing a similar role to that of Future Redeemed's Ouroboros. Heroes who did their best to save the world, but whose ultimate purpose was to pave the way for someone down the line to finish what they started.
Humans will make Elysium into another Moritha, just as they did with Torna 500 years ago. I won't let that happen! And after you die, what then? Who will stop the inevitable?
Isn't that the reason that you blades exist?
What?
And when I'm not around to stand by you in that effort, someone else will! That's right. When a person dies, that's it for them. But their thoughts and memories will always be passed on to someone else.
It's this realization that he can trust Rex and other people to fight against people like Amalthus that allows Jin to pass on in peace, confident the world will thrive after he's gone. That's what it means to truly fight for a better world. Doing what only you can do in the moment, trusting only yourself to get the job done in the here and now, it sounds like just another route to Mobius. In order to truly improve the world, you need to not only do what you can in the here and now, but do what you can for the future, trusting those down the line to do as you did, giving meaning to your actions.
As long as you lot do your part to change this world, it'll all go back to normal.
And if we don't manage, then what? My lifetime. It's barely a blip.
If you don't, pass it on.
Huh?
Let someone else carry on your dream. That's how we've always rolled. Us lot.
And if what you've got isn't enough for you, well, you can always leave things to the next generation.
You've got a point. Surprisingly enough.
This was a theme I initially thought Xenoblade 3 didn't abandon, but took somewhat of a step back from. But now that Future Redeemed is out, I can tell that 3 very much is about that, just a different stage. As chronologically the last game in the franchise, Xenoblade 3 pays off all the talk of entrusting the future to the next generation. Noah, Mio, Uni, Taion, Lanz, Senna, and all their allies. They are that next generation Xenoblade 1, 2, Torna, and retroactively Future Redeemed were building to. Just as people once put their hopes and trust in Shulk and Rex, they too put their trust in Matthew and his friends, who go on, doing their best to resist within their lifetimes, passing on their efforts and their faith to the next generation, who build off what their predecessors did for them, little by little, until we finally get to Noah, Mio, and their compatriots who, off the back of everything everyone else did for them, are able to defeat Mobius and restore the two worlds back to their original states, and it's probable that, somewhere down the line, someone else will have to do the same. Just as the parties of Rex and Shulk seemingly brought peace to their worlds, only for them to face further strife, the world created by Ouroboros will surely face conflict in the future. But I think Xenoblade knows that creating a perfect world where nothing goes wrong and everything stays flawless forever isn't a realistic outcome. Somewhere there will always be suffering. There will always be people who seek to exploit or add to that suffering for their own self-interest. And there will be those so broken and despondent by the absurdity of existence that, in their search for relief, they also end up spreading more suffering. But the struggle for a better world being a long one doesn't invalidate that struggle. People, fueled by the promise of a better tomorrow, not just for themselves but for everyone around them, are what drive the Earth forward into the unknown. Though things often seem so hopeless, though it feels the only way to have an impact is to give in to the despair and destroy everything around you in your grief, it's people from all walks of life loving and trusting each other and wanting a world where they are free to do so. That is what will save us in the end.
Matthew, your actions have made the future uncertain. Have you no regrets? Given a choice of this magnitude, surely there is doubt.
Oh, believe me, got 'em in spades. That's why we move forward. Always ahead.
Thanks for watching. If you like this video and want to support the creation of more, then I'd suggest you pledge to my Patreon. I'd appreciate the support and you get some goodies in return. Again, thanks for watching. Have a good one. Bye bye.